Hey there, it's Susan Pierce Thompson, and welcome to the weekly vlog. So I moved when I was 23 years old in a very strange direction. I moved from San Francisco, California, out to Rochester, New York. Most people go the other way. They move out to California. But I moved here to Rochester, New York back in 1997. And I moved here to get my PhD in brain and cognitive sciences at the University of Rochester. And when I first arrived here in Rochester, the first time ever for a visit, it was for the graduate student recruiting weekend. And on that weekend, they took us to two restaurants, I remember, and one of them was this Thai restaurant that I ended up going to all the time for years and years and years, all the way up to the present day, which means I've been going to that restaurant for, 25 years or something like that? Almost 25 years. So about 3 times in all that time, and twice recently, one of the servers there, a waitress there, has come up to me. This happened. So the most recent time really sticks out in my mind. It was maybe a year ago. And she came over to take my order. Everybody there knows me by name. She's, "Oh, Susan, how are you?" And then she says, "You've gotten fat. You've gotten fat. I see you're wearing a big sweater, but you've gotten fat, putting on some weight." And then she says, "What would you like to order?" And I was stunned. I was sort of like, no, not putting on weight, but I'll have my usual, the veggie ginger. Anyway, she'd commented on my weight like that, saying that I was looking fat or that I'd gained weight, maybe a couple months before. And then the other time was like 10 years ago or something. This time, like a year ago, it really struck me because my weight was not up at all. It was actually down a pound or two from my usual. And I was just thinking, it just kind of rubbed me wrong. So anyway, what's interesting about this is that it's so unusual in our culture for someone to comment like that about our weight in that direction. There's a bit of a taboo in our Western individualist culture, for whatever reason, against commenting about people's weight as they gain weight. We don't typically say to each other, "Oh, looking pretty chunky after the summer. I guess you enjoyed those barbecues," right? It's not something we typically say to each other. But we often do comment as people we know go down the scale. "Oh, it looks like you're losing weight. Are you doing something differently?" That is actually pretty common. That is socially allowed in our society. The first kind of commenting on people's gaining weight or heavier weight status or whatever, there's now a term for it called fat shaming, right? You don't comment like that. But people that I know who are on the thinner side, they talk often about being skinny shamed, having people say, "You don't look good, at this weight, you need to put on more weight," and so forth. And the way this relates to our bright line eating journey is a lot of us experience this, and it can be unsettling and kind of shocking and stunning as we start to lose weight, suddenly noticing that the people around us feel at liberty to comment on our weight loss. And where our bodies used to feel kind of invisible and kind of beyond people's, mention, now all of a sudden the comments start flying like, "Oh, you've lost weight. Oh." And in particular, what I notice is that people often receive comments like, "You don't want to lose any more weight, do you? You're thin enough, right? Please tell me you're done losing weight." And unfortunately, those comments can be received when someone still has 50 pounds to lose. They may have lost 150, but they may have 50 pounds to lose still. And then the comments start coming of, "Please tell me you're not going to lose any more weight." So in this vlog, I want to give some thoughts and some suggestions about how to handle this, because it can be, really off-putting, unsettling, disturbing. It can really throw us. And so the first thing I just want to say is expect it. expect it, expect it, expect it. Brace yourself. It's almost surely going to happen. And when you expect it, when you kind of flinch in advance, you know those comments are coming as you start to lose weight, it can take at least some of the sting out of it, because research shows that a negative that we expect doesn't feel as bad, right? Losing your job is one thing. If you know you're about to lose your job, it doesn't, the blow doesn't land as severely. So if you know those comments are coming, it can be helpful. Expect it. People are almost for sure going to be commenting on your weight loss in a way that might not feel good, in a way that might feel intrusive, that might feel presumptuous, that might feel kind of rude and shocking. So that's the first thing. Expect it. The second thing I want to say is assume good intent. Just God bless us all. God bless us. We just know not what we do, right? Assume ignorance, assume good intent. Here's what's true about weight loss in our society, and in particular, the kind of weight loss that's commonplace around here, which is dramatic, rapid, and complete, like going from overweight, obesity class 1, class 2, class 3, down to a normal BMI, right? People don't see it. It's not common. It's rare. It's so rare that most of the people you know will have never seen it. In other words, if they're used to seeing you, quite overweight, they're going to think you look too thin well before you're too thin, right? They have no idea what a right-sized body is for you, and they're not your go-to reference source for your healthy weight status, right? Certainly, right? This is not the kind of thing you're going to take a straw poll, on a street corner about, or in the office, right? Like, hey, everybody take a poll. When should I stop losing weight? No. So just know that their eyes are broken. What's happened is our mad, just off the hook mad, romp up the weight scale, with obesity rates climbing and climbing again and climbing again and climbing again, unabated. It's broken all of our eyes. We just don't know anymore, especially when we're used to seeing someone heavy and now they're losing weight. Now, another thing that is true is when you lose your weight, it is going to take a while, 6 months to a year is what I would say, to fill out and settle in. In other words, you're going to lose your weight in such a way that you might look extra gaunt at first, in the face, in the neck, that kind of thing. And so it might be that they are concerned that you look gaunt or something. And it might be that you do for a little while. And I teach people about this in the Bright Line Eating program. And I say, give it some time. It will fill in. It will fill in. And so there are ways to figure out what your genetically right-sized body is, like when it's time to stop losing weight. And I almost guarantee you that they are not aware of those methods, right? So you're not going to be looking to them for guidance, but you can't actually rely on them to tell you for real if you look too thin either, right? So like, I think I heard some time ago that someone was sending a letter, someone showed it to a couple people in Bright Lifers or whatever and sent it in to customer support or whatever about me, like ranting about me being too thin, and because they could see, I've got my collarbone here, and then I've got 1 or 2 sets of ribs that sometimes show. Whatever. I am not too thin. I take care not to get too thin. I am aware that it would be bad for the Bright Line Eating movement if I were perceived to be too thin. I am far from too thin. I'm in my bright body. I'm in a right-sized body. But at least sometime in the last couple years, there has been at least one person out there in our community kind of flipped out about thinking that I was too thin and really upset about it and spreading, their concerns. So just to say, you're eligible too. We're all eligible for that, right? Our society has gone a little wonkadoodle about weight, and this is one of the ways it comes out. Like, freak out time about people losing weight and potentially getting too thin. And some of other people's freak out can sort of bleed over to you. So expect it. Assume good intent and ignorance, and that they don't know. They don't know how much weight you should lose or what you should look like as you're losing weight. And as you assume good intent, that can come out in your words, right? In your response, like, oh, thank you for your concern. I hear that you're concerned about me. Thank you for your concern. You know what? I'm working with my doctor really closely and a lot of experts, and this is not unintentional weight loss. This is very carefully controlled weight loss, and I assure you that I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. You can also ask them to stop commenting about it. That's what I finally did with that waitress. I walked out after this third time that she said something like that. And I was a little miffed because my weight was not up. And I was just like, I was wearing a big, fat, bulky sweater. Anyway, I just went over to her at the end of my meal and I said, could I ask you a favor? And she said, oh, yeah. And I said, would you please never comment on my weight again? And she looked kind of startled and she laughed. And she said, okay. I said, yeah, I would appreciate that if you just didn't bring up that subject again. It's not comfortable for me. I would appreciate that. And she assured me that she wouldn't comment on my weight again. And I felt really good. I felt like I advocated for myself. I felt like I took care of myself. And I go to that restaurant still. I've probably been there 10 times since that incident, and I feel comfortable walking in the door, and she and I are good. She's waited on me since. It's fine. It's totally fine. So the final piece of advice I have around this, and it's the most important after expect it, assume good intent, is bring it here. Bring it here, because there's so much collective experience about this in our community. What I mean is, come here to the Bright Line Eating community and post about it. Tell us about it, or call someone in Bright Line Eating and say, oh my gosh, someone at work just said, rah, 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 you're not going to lose any more weight. Or my mother-in-law, she keeps hounding me, not to lose any more weight, blah, blah, blah. Tell us about it, because it is disconcerting otherwise. And it would be a shame for someone else's, well-intentioned ignorance to really be something that you carry around, or even worse, that really throws you off your path, right? Or makes you doubt and start to rethink about how much weight you should lose or anything like that. I promise you, they're not your source of information. They are not at all, even a tiny bit informed about how much weight you actually need to lose, right? Here in Bright Line Eating, we talk a lot about how to figure out how to get to a bright body and when to stop losing weight and so forth. Your doctor, there's other people that you can be talking to about that. And, taking their advice about it is not helpful, but bring it here. We can help neutralize, and hearing some of our outrageous stories of the things people have said to us can help to neutralize and normalize some of that energy so that you're not carrying it around with you anymore. And, I think in general, as we lose our weight, there's a bit of a, coming out to the world that happens. And it can be a bumpy road. It can be a process. It can be something that takes time to acclimate to, because I think a lot of us hid behind our weight for a long time and, didn't show up in the world as fully as we might be being called to now. Right? And so some of that involves needing to have a thicker skin. And sometimes things happen in life to give us practice with that kind of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to talk this week a little bit about the comments that people might make about our weight, because it's likely to happen. Expect it. And we got your back. When it happens, bring it here. That's the weekly vlog. I'll see you next week.